appraisers aren't going away. There's value in the human component of being able to analyze data.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast, helping appraisers increase their efficiency, quality, and make more money. Here's the guy who makes it his life's mission to create value for real estate appraisers nationwide. Your host and the Appraiser Coach, Dustin Harris.
All right, everybody, welcome to the program. Dustin Harris hanging out with you. We've got a great guest in the wings. First, want to pause and remind you we're sponsored by a couple of great companies. Of course, a la mode, been a sponsor on this program from the very beginning. Check them out by going to their website at alamode.com, or you can pick up the phone, of course, and call them. Always call them, talk to a real person. 800-ALA-MODE is their number. And OREP Insurance, of course, that is my E&O of choice, has been for many, many years. Don't ever see myself going anywhere else. Check them out. OREP, that's OREP.org. I want to welcome back to the program, friend of the program, been on the program a couple of times, and we always love to see Mr. Shawn Telford. Welcome back, Shawn.
Thank you, sir. Happy to be here. It's
good to see you.
Friday.
It is. And, as we record this, we were talking a little bit off the air that I've got about 18 inches of snow out that window right there. And you don't. That's why you're sporting the Hawaiian shirt, I guess.
Yeah, I got to have the little Friday state of mind. It's
we always
warm and humid already.
Yeah, well, we always record these, 4 or 5 weeks in advance. So just, as people are listening to this, just, sneak back about a month ago and ask yourself what the weather was like, and just know that Shawn's got better weather than Dustin has. So Shawn, of course, is the Chief Valuation Officer within the Collateral and Risk Solutions team at Corelogic. He's worked in the real estate sector from, since 1993. That's when I graduated from high school, my friend. He is a certified residential appraiser. He contributes to the industry as a member of the Appraisal Qualifications Board, the AQB. He was previously a member of the Appraisal Standards Board, of course, the ASB. Telford is a frequent speaker, panelist, author, and contributor. He earned his MBA and a master's degree in computer information systems and a BS in business management. And I assume you're going to give a little disclaimer that you're not going to be speaking for the AQB today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I speak the opinions of Shawn Telford and certainly enjoy working with those boards, but I do not speak for them today.
Well, and I would assume that's the case with Corelogic as well, though obviously you hold a lofty position there at Corelogic, but I assume all of these opinions are yours. But let's start there. Tell me what's going on with Corelogic right now. What's new?
Lots of activity over here, as you can imagine, Dustin. We have we're fortunate to have a broad customer base that touches valuations. We of course have our appraisers that utilize our a la mode solutions and all that's there. We have the Marshall and Swift folks that appraisers use when necessary, and then of course our platforms that the lenders and our appraisal management company friends utilize to handle the procurement and the review. So we are busily working on those solutions. We want to improve them. We want to make them better. And of course, importantly today, make sure that they're up to speed with compliance. There's a lot of activity from the regulators, from policymakers. And so we're heavily investing in those activities. Not to mention, you may have heard about a new UAD.
Oh, yeah, so I've heard a little bit about that.
Yeah, as we prepare for that, I mean, we've been for many months now, the teams have been head down working to plan how to integrate that in. We, of course, want to make it as seamless for our appraiser customers and for everybody else, because there's a lot of impacts from the initiation of an order from a lender, from the GSEs, all the way downstream till the appraiser receives the order and then compiles the reporting part, USPAP we develop in our opinions. Then we report. The reporting process using the new UAD is going to be different. And right. There's a lot of change there. So we want to get it right. So we're working heavily to make sure that's a success.
Timing wise, last time I heard, I guess it was September, I was at the Val Expo, and the representative from Fannie Mae was was before us all talking about it. I think he mentioned first quarter of 2025 is when they hope to have that first rollout. Has that changed anything as far as
I
timing
don't
goes?
have the timeline in front of me. Both the GSEs have their timeline published. You can go out there under
Oh, got it.
their appraisal modernization efforts. But generally speaking, yeah, the year of 2024 will be a build, and through 2025 we'll begin the process of piloting and putting that out there. But the GSEs have a lot of work as well. It's one thing to build the standard for the data transmission back and forth, but now it's about updating all of their policies around how to do this, updating their loan systems, DU and LP respectively, as well as all of the UCDP portal. It has to be fully updated as well to handle the data file delivery there. So there's a tremendous amount of work going on. I mean, I can't think of anything since in my time in valuation that's a bigger investment of dollars and human resources and time than we are seeing around the new UAD and all of the related components of that.
Yeah, even those appraisers who went from the Green Hornet to kind of what we have today, I don't think have seen as big a change as what we will see in the very near future.
Yeah, you're spot on. It's one thing to go from using the 1004 with where it was free text, we just typed whatever we felt was appropriate.
Right.
And
it was all accurate, not appropriate, Shawn. It was all
excuse me, yes. And so, but then moving to the UAD, where many of the fields were standardized that allowed for automation and a more effectiveness in from the risk perspective from the lender side. But now we're changing how we actually compile all that. So it's not just variations on the form, it's an entirely new approach. And I know there's a lot of consternation from everybody. I think at all angles, this is a big change, but at the end of the day, it's going to be so much more flexible and better that it's my opinion is it's going to be better for everybody in the continuum once we get it in play.
I agree. I'm actually excited, and I like change anyway. It's weird. I'm strange, but I'm kind of excited for what it's going to bring and some of the new things that it'll bring to the table. Speaking of new things, talk to us in general. You kind of have a front row seat, if you will, to what's going on, the modernization, the changes in the industry, not just so much the UAD. What do you see coming down the pipe? What are people talking about? What changes should appraisers who are listening to this program know about and prepare for?
Beyond the UAD, there's certainly been a lot of talk about modernization. And sometimes I think people lump UAD into modernization. For me, they're two mutually exclusive things. The UAD is about a technology change and certainly related to modernizing. But when the GSEs from the modernization there, we're really talking about them changing their policies to allow for different types of collateral risk assessments. We've all heard about the appraisal waivers, the value acceptance. I think they've retooled those a little bit, the naming conventions. But those are all significant policy changes at the GSEs that are allowing lenders more options in how they can assess the collateral risk. And so to me, those are some of the biggest impacts right now that we're seeing from the appraiser perspective, from the lender perspective. As we know, there's been a lot of piloting of those products and services, and we're learning what the concerns are in the industry. We're learning what works. The Federal Housing Finance Administration, FHFA, held a appraisal summit a few weeks ago in DC, and it was a chance to talk with a wide array of stakeholders, from regulators to lenders to everybody in between, appraisers, AMCs, technology providers. The FHFA gathered the group together to talk about how are the pilots going, how is the modernization going. And I really enjoyed the conversation because you had, I think, good dialogue from people that had concerns about it or didn't like it to those that were seeing great success and significant improvement in things that matter to them from the lender side: turn times, risk, consistency. We're also seeing the GSEs. They're taking all the data that they've accumulated through the UCDP process, and they're analyzing that data, and they're giving feedback to the industry. And so we're seeing a lot of this. We've seen it in terms of words and subjectivity that they're observing in appraisals.
Right.
We've seen the GSEs talk about adjustments and the need to have consistency, and they're able to see how the appraisal industry approaches that and how the appraisal reports are reflecting those, and they're bringing it to light. And that is affecting, significantly. It's affecting how the industry communicates regarding appraisal opinions, appraisal findings. And so those are big deals with respect to modernization. And so while not directly technically related, they're, I think, shifting how appraisers think about the role they play in helping understanding the risk that the lender takes on when they make these loans. So, we could go on these topics for a long, long time, Dustin, because there's so much change there that's we can kind of see it coming as to how the value of the appraiser adds to the equation. And I'll hands down, full stop, appraisers add value. They absolutely add value to the equation. How they add value is going to be different going forward from my perspective. And that's a small incremental change. It's not like we're going to have a 180 tomorrow, right, but incrementally we're going to see the change come into play. And in those respects, I think we're going to learn that some of it works really well and some of it probably doesn't. But we need to move forward.
A couple of weeks ago, I did an episode where I kind of pulled out my crystal ball and talked about things moving forward. And everything you're saying fits into that realm. When we get back from the break, Shawn, I want to get a perspective from you about appraisers themselves. You are an appraiser, and specifically talk to you about how appraisers can welcome this change. I might even ask you the $64,000 question: are appraisers going to be around in a few years? But first, I want to pause and remind everybody that we're sponsored by a couple of great companies. Speaking of great companies, Shawn, of course, works for Corelogic, the parent company of a la mode. We talk a lot about a la mode here because guess what, folks? That's what I use. Well, why? I'll tell you, I had an experience last week that was absolutely incredible. I've known a little bit about QuickSource. It's one of the perks, if you will, with a la mode. I have not really used it much. I reached out to a la mode's team, and I was able to spend one-on-one time with one of their techs as he mapped my MLS to a la mode, and I sat back there and watched him take over my screen and do it. I didn't have to lift a finger. It was awesome. And guess how much it cost me, folks? Nothing. It was awesome. And now I'm using QuickSource, absolutely loving it. Folks, that's just one perk with a la mode. There are plenty coming your direction. Check them out. If you're with any other company, go to alamode.com, look at some of their videos and see what they have to offer. Pick up the phone, call them, 800 a la mode, or again, alamode.com. OREP, of course, is my insurance of choice. It has been for many, many years. And folks, I've been with other insurance companies. I'll tell you what I love about OREP. OREP is a broker. What does that mean? Well, it may not mean much to you, but it means a lot to me in the sense that I can go to OREP and the actual company that I'm with last year is different than the one this year. Why? Because they shop it for me. They do all the shopping. They come up with the best company that fits Dustin Harris's profile better than any other company, and I pay less. Check them out by going to orep.org. That's OREP.org. All right, my friends, welcome back to the program. Mr. Shawn Telford from Corelogic is with us. Welcome back, Shawn. Thanks for being here, man.
Thank you. Always happy for the chance to talk about the industry. It's a lot of activity and a lot of excitement.
There is a lot of change. As I mentioned earlier, I like change. A lot of appraisers don't. Let's talk to those appraisers a little bit. What would Shawn Telford's advice be for an appraiser who, has been appraising for 25 years and has kind of got used to doing it the way that he or she does it, and now all of a sudden this change is coming at him? I've actually, Shawn, I don't want to bias your answer, but I actually just yesterday read a social media post where someone said, and they didn't say one specific thing. They listed about 10 different changes that are happening in the appraisal industry and basically said, I just did my last appraisal report. This has pushed me over the edge. I'm done. I'm ready to retire. What would you say to an appraiser who may not be at that age, but all this change is coming towards us?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question to address, Dustin. I think the first thing I would say is I can understand the feelings that individuals have about the change, right? I think that's human nature to not necessarily like change. I think I like you have tried to teach myself to see change as an opportunity, as a positive. There's all kinds of analogies in nature. I mean, every year the leaves fall off the trees, the snow comes, and then we have spring, right? It's a natural cycle to have change, and that allows the trees to grow, the reservoirs to replenish, yada yada. I mean, there's a lot of benefits to change. Now, having said that, it doesn't change the emotion that I think we all feel as we go through those processes. Recently in the town I live in here in Oxford, Mississippi, they began replacing four-way stops or stoplights with roundabouts. And, that's a change, right?
Yeah.
And of course, there's a lot of opinions we all hear about roundabouts. But when we went through the process, the stop signs would get backed up. I mean, at certain times with all the students we have here, it's a college town, it could be very cumbersome to get somewhere. I mean, you have to find a back road. But now with the advent of the roundabout, it's improved. But it was okay most of the time, but it got bad with the stop signs. While they were putting in the roundabout, it was super inconvenient because you had to go a totally different way because it's all rerouted. Once they put the roundabout in, for a few weeks, it was a little rough. You have the out of town folks that don't understand it. Now it's 1,000 times better.
Oh, yeah.
But that whole transition through those events led to the result. And I think we're in the same type of thing with appraising, where the changes are bigger here. They're not incremental. There's a lot of big changes. But one key thing, just like with the roundabout, that we're still going places with cars, right? We're still trying to get from point A to point B. It didn't change anything about that. It just changed a little bit of the routing of how we do that. And I see the changes in appraising the same way. Appraisers aren't going away. There's value in the human component of being able to analyze data. The best artificial intelligence models, language learning models, all that, they can't analyze data as effectively and with the reason that a human being can. And to me, that's where the appraisers will always add value as far as we can see into the future, is the ability to analyze data, reason, reconcile that data, and form an opinion. AI can't form an opinion. AI can make calculations and comparisons, but human beings are licensed as appraisers to form opinions of value. And so while the frequency of that opinion may change a little bit in mortgage lending because there's other ways to manage risk, the fact is an appraiser is not going to go away. It's just going to be a different model of how we add our value to the equation. So I'm very comfortable, in that side. And we hear a lot, naturally, the side of appraising where the appraisers add the most value is the analysis, the work you do on your computer now and looking at the data that's gathered. The data gathering in the field, while certainly is important, it will be less of the role of the appraiser to do that, in my opinion, and more about analyzing the data that's gathered through many different sources, whether it's like we do today, we analyze public records data and MLS data. And we're seeing now property data collection become more of the data that we'll be asked to analyze as part of the scope of work of our assignments. And so certainly USPAP covers how to do that appropriately and within a way that's objective and creates reliable, objective opinions for our customers. And well, I think we're just going to continue to see that change progress as we move forward. But again, the value that a human being brings to that equation is significant. And and again, in my opinion, Shawn's opinion, appraisers in the industry need to lean into that analysis component, the value that we bring, and how artificial intelligence, how technology can be used by lenders to render the risk management that they need with respect to collateral. So I think that's where we should be focusing our energy as an industry, as individuals, is taking advantage of that, shaping the future. Because if we're doing that, we're going to be a voice at the table. If we're worried about other things that are changing, I think that we won't have as strong of a voice in shaping what the future looks like.
Yeah, I 100% agree with everything you just said. True story, Shawn. I got a revision request yesterday from one of my clients and said I had some undesirable language in my report, and I'm like, what? I thought I had got rid of all of that, and then the word that came up was desirable, and I thought, I didn't think I'd been using desirable for 2 years now, and sure enough, in one of my comments, I made I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but basically it was my adjustments because of the uniqueness of this property were more than desirable. So I wasn't talking about the house or the neighborhood or the market or anything like that being desirable, but I understand from a perspective of an appraiser, you don't like to be told what to do, right? And you can't use this word, you can't use that word, and that's only the tip of the iceberg, right? But right. As Tim Anderson says, should we ever have been using the word desirable? And probably not. Not in a report that's supposed to be unbiased and
exactly.
Yeah.
I think I think back to the years past, and certainly I'm guilty of using words that are subjective. And as we get that feedback now, as the industry, as the GSEs are positioned to be able to point that out to the industry, and we're shining the light on it. I like to use the analogy, I hope this doesn't offend anybody, but I like to use the analogy. Sometimes you go into a room, you change the light bulbs, you turn on all the lights, you're looking around, you're like, whoa, there's a few little cobwebs up in the corner of the ceiling that have grown there that I didn't see because the light wasn't on. Right. I look at what's happening here is, it's not like we need to tear the house down to get rid of the cobwebs. It's just make a few little changes to, again, should we have ever been using words that were subjective that way? And the fact that it's being pointed out, I think, is a good thing, because it raises the bar for how appraisers are operating and leads us more and more towards credibility, towards trust. Keeping the public trust, as we like to say, is, to me, it's when when somebody looks at an appraiser and inherently trusts their opinion of the value. And if we don't, as an industry, really hold on to that, then we could lose that public trust in our opinions.
Agreed, and that's what we're here for, right? To protect the public trust for that risk management side of things. Shawn Telford, Corelogic, thank you, my friend, for being with us. As always, a good friend of the program. You're welcome back anytime, and just appreciate your time today.
Thank you, sir.
You enjoy that weather. I'm gonna go get on a snowmobile.
That sounds good. I'll ride my motorcycle home from work.
We'll talk to you later, my friend.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.